Yeah, I see a video. Bad Wolves or something.
Zombie. Yep. So, I hope we are live. I have no idea if we are. Can you tell?
Yeah, it's on now.
Sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Hello. Child is slowly taken. Ignorance causes silence. Who are we mistaken? But you see, it's not me, it's not my family. In your head, they are fighting with their tanks and their bombs and their bombs and their drums. In your head, they are crying. Now that's all I legally probably can show. Now it is past the minute mark, but the music didn't actually start till then. I just wanted to do that because I'm really thought that Lawrence was really good. And let me just show you. I'm so demonetized because YouTube is a bunch of cunts.
Well, it's not like it's gonna take a while to get around.
Hey guys.
Since they keep changing the
Yo, we got the Donnie up in the house.
requirements.
Hey Don.
Hello.
Oh, doing pretty good. Here. Oh, how
you're gonna like
there
this.
We go.
What was it?
There we go.
Whoa.
Oh yeah. All right, I'm here.
I don't think the sound's coming through, by the way.
Can you hear it?
I can hear. Is this Zombie by Cranberries?
Yep. You heard this, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, this was a big deal back in. Remember, I grew up in a Catholic community, so all this kind of stuff was a big deal.
This is like Northern Ireland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun.
Okay, there we go. I hear it.
Can you hear it? Can you hear it,
yeah.
Everybody?
Yeah.
You can. How about you, Donner?
Oh yeah.
This is just to give some people some context, that's all.
May you see, it's not me, it's not my family. In your head, they're fighting with their tanks and their bombs and their bombs and their guns. In your head, they're crying. In your head, zombie, zombie.
Now, I just want to put this in context for Donovan, because this is what I was playing beforehand.
Silence, who are we mistaken? But you see, it's not me, it's not my family. In your head, they are fighting with their tanks and their bombs and their bombs and their drums. In your head, they are crying.
And I'm not going to get sued. So, no, I probably am going to get sued.
Nah, they'll just strike the channel or something. But
Yeah, probably. Hold on. Okay. Yo. Ladies and gentlemen, would you like to hear about the fun story of Death Squared?
What is
No?
that?
squared.
Oh, this is exactly what you're here for. I was telling you guys, I was telling the liberal here. I was telling him. We need to definitely talk about how marriage will affect our society, but most of all, how we need to save it. And here's why. Oh, let's see. I think this is the first page that was relevant in the specific. This is like a magazine, and Dr. John Calhoun wrote a piece about an experiment he did. I want to give you guys a little bit of context. Dr. Calhoun wanted to understand the frustrations of why people fight each other, especially in highly populated areas and in dense populations. So it's different. Many times over, he created these things that he called universes, which were just, sets of which, mice or rats, depending on the situation, would be set up in a particular area. And he then would be given every single thing they needed for one particular resource, so that way you could see how the mice would react if a certain resource was gone. And sometimes he would have more than one resource gone. And after many years of seeing how these colonies had failed, where he would start with completely healthy mice, and he would control all the variables, or rats, depending on the situation, and he would and then he would drop in only a few at a time. He would see the results. This was the one experiment called Universe 25, or as he called it, Death Squared, where he decided to go ahead and try where, now that he's seen what happens when you take away all but one resource, like when you leave in it and give as much of all but one resource and all but many resources in all combinations but a few. He wanted to see what it would be like if you gave them all the resources they need. Everything. Just a shit ton of everything. Anyway, so I want to make something clear. They had as much food as they could possibly need. You see, they all had a certain amount of food that they were given, where if it reached a certain level, it could hit capacity, meaning they couldn't have any more. But that level was like some 100,000 mice in this particular universe. It was called Universe 25. the amount of mice there would have to be in order to occupy all the space would start getting cramped was some 100 or 1,000 as well, or million or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but the thing is, which is not good, they had just as many living spaces, as many tubes to crawl through, and everything a mouse could possibly need. Nothing that was short of what they needed. And they only had about 8 mice dropped in. 4 males and 4 females. There were no outside predators in this area. It was a giant area of space. There was no diseases. There was nothing. There was no way that any outside forces could tamper with the experiment. And they just let the mouses do whatever. Oh, that's right. I forgot, Donovan. It's like 5 over where you were at, right?
What?
It's 5 o'clock where you're at, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I hear some like planes. I'm like,
Oh no, that's not me.
That's me.
Oh, that's you. That's fine. That's fine. But anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that because before we even begin, this mouse colony called Universe 25, which started off with 4 rat families and 8 rats altogether. Well, actually, they were mice. Sorry, not rats, but mice. And these were completely domesticated mice.
Mm-hmm.
They never reached capacity to any of the resources they had, nor did any predators nor diseases from the outside world ever enter the mouse utopia, as it was called.
You said there was one limiting factor, though, right?
What?
Didn't you say he would have at least one? He would have one limiting factor, right?
He did that through about 25 different experiments, and then sometimes would have multiple factors and see how they interacted with each other. But basically, in Universe
25, there was nothing. There was no limitations at all.
No limitations. Well, there were limitations.
Okay.
Well, there were limitations, but none of them were small. The limitations were so unbelievably large that that they would have to reach capacity at these limitations in order for it to do anything. So, and they never did. Never. He had every combination of variables tested, every individual variable tested in both mice, and rats. So basically, before he had this one experiment, he had done all the combinations of experiments all the alterations to these experiments that he possibly could. Every variable that he could possibly take away or limit, he did at some point in time. This was the one where nothing was supposed to be limited. And guess what? Even though they had a finite amount of space and a finite amount of food, the amount was so heavy that they would have to reach a certain point. They never did. They started dying off way before that ever happened.
Yeah.
So I just wanted you guys to remember that. I don't. Some people in the comment will be like, "Well, what about the limit of space?" At some point, someone will say that. They never did. It never reached there for any.
Oh, it was even worse than them having a population collapse at a critical point. They actually started preying on one another simply out of malign.
Yeah,
and hurting each other.
Are you reading the article right now? Is that what you're doing?
What?
Are you reading the article right now?
No. I saw there's a big in about 2013. Somebody had a video, or 2014, 2015. Somebody had some video on the subject, and it covered only the experiment, and it got into like the results, and they actually had visual of it.
Was it a British dude? Was it TLDR?
It might have been, actually. Yeah. I'm betting it was.
Yeah, like was it deer?
Well, I mean, it might have been. I'm not sure, but I mean, I know that there was a video that went around about this, and when they showed, like, there were some who just sat there and literally they described people. They described groups you can see forming in modern society now.
Yeah, so this is why I wanted to talk about it. Now I'm going to read this opening part. I shall speak largely of but my thoughts are on man, on healing, on life, and its evolution threatening. Now I'm going to skip down to the next paragraph because this is where he this is where you should understand his view on things. This takes us to the fourth horseman of the apocalypse. I saw a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed him. And they were given in power over a fourth of the earth, to kill with the sword, with famine, and with pestilence, and with wild beasts of the earth. My second death has gradually become a more prominent and concern in modern medicine. Now, I wanted to let you guys know that, because that's a bone-chilling way to open an article, isn't it? To quote
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
So I just want to preface that. So what happened was it started off, basically it was the first phase was just when they were put in. The second phase was when they started to really start populating. This was known as the exploitation phase. Now, there should be a diagram here. I don't remember where it was exactly. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Oh, shit.
Wait, actually, it does say there was only university. The only university was a limitation on space.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, but it would have to reach capacity in order to get there, and it never did, even for that. Like, it was like ample space where they never reached that. This is what it looked like. This is what the utopia looked like. It was, and there were mice everywhere. And here's the really dark thing. When it came to the distribution, once this happened, let me just move the layout. Utopia layout. Okay. The reason why I wanted to show you this was because I want you guys to see how. Wait. I should probably type in universe. Also, Utopia universe. 25. There we go. This is what it looked like. This is how the shape of it was. Of course, there's some other images not relevant. But like, I can't find the distribution charts. But if you saw the distribution charts, what it would look like is that at the exploitation phase, these mice would they'd have ample space to go into as many apartments, as they were called, as they wanted to. But there was overcrowding in specific areas that were packed with mice, and the other areas were pretty much vacant. And you see this little thing in the middle right here? That's mice that were oftentimes not alpha males, and they literally sat in the middle, as Donovan said, and they would fight each other just randomly because they were angry. And sometimes some of the mice that were more omega or beta than others would not win the fights, and so they would just sit there and just take it. They would just take the beating. They would not fight back. And believe it or not, the alpha males would get raped by the beta male. They would like display homosexual behavior. There's two other stages I can't quite remember all the way, but basically these in these specific stages in this universe, it got worse and worse. Over time, the mothers slowly started to neglect their children. They would over time just ignore them and just pretend like they weren't even there. And you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to show the TLDR video because I'm doing a terrible job of narrating this. Just being honest. Okay, so hold on. Let me just open up it. Here we go. Yeah, TLDR did a great video on it. So it's going to make it a lot faster. So this should really give you a good idea.
You need to understand.
Fuck off.
Well, you do have ads on your videos.
What?
I said you do have ads running on your videos.
No, this is just.
I'm joking.
Fuck you.
Experiment done by Dr. Calhoun, known as the Mouse Utopia experiment. This test basically simulated a perfect world for mice anyway. Everything that they could possibly need or want was provided for them. And this entire experiment was here to document birth rates and any sort of behavioral change.
Now let's get to the meat.
That the total population never reached the peak of what it could sustain, and the fact that in the end it also declined until the point of death. And given a
I just wanted to.
study similar to this done not only on mice and rats,
Hold-
it was ultimately not an inaccurate description of ways that a person can die. And Calhoun simply applied all of the various ways that you can kill a living organism and put it into the context of ecological expression, which, etc. Pestilence remained exactly the same. It was just the spread of disease. Migration. But in this instance, he likened the sword and small liberal increase.
Sorry, just gotta get to the meat.
They will
So where
is
you?
as interesting as you might think it could be, but certain elements
I like that picture. That's funny.
about
That is pretty funny.
very important when it comes to animals.
It's just so adorable. When the mice,
Yeah,
so the mouse is just thinking like, "How to get out here?"
looks like some indie band poster, you know, for a show or something.
Yeah, it does. I would watch. I'd actually listen to a band like that as long as their music wasn't shit. I that looks like a great way. That looks like a hilarious way to advertise a band.
David Bowie meets Modest Mouse, something like that.
Yeah. Wait. What's his name? Elton John meets Dead Mouse.
There you go. Oh my.
Or should we name this
Good one.
Bad Mouse?
Good one.
Considering should we name this Bad Mouse because what's his face wants a utopia, and if this is the result, well,
Oh boy. Bad Mouse Productions, you mean?
no, Bad Mouse, the communist guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The
Oh, I didn't know he was Bad Mouse Productions, but yeah, whatever, that guy,
yeah, the commie faggot.
him.
Okay, here we go.
Specifically the available, then they have been forced into a suboptimal link, booning with another group with whom they will then breed. Universe 25, as it was codenamed. Well, it's possibly not as interesting as you might think it could be, but certain elements about the setup are very, very important when it comes to analyzing the results, specifically the radial layout of the utopia. This entire experiment was set up in a 2.5 meter by 2.5 meter
There you go.
which was 1.5 meters tall, so kind of a squashed cuboid. And it was specifically designed so that the mice could not climb on the upper 17 inches of this cube, which would be their new home, which prevents them from emigrating to another environment. That's one mortality factor eliminated. Resource availability was distributed completely evenly. Each one of the 25.25 linear segments of wall was identical. They each contained 4 vertical tunnels, which enabled the mice to go up and down as they
Donovan, does this sound familiar? Does this sound like the video you saw?
Oh yeah. This is. I believe this is it.
Yeah.
pleased, and at every 8-inch interval above the floor, there was an entrance portal to a nesting box. Each nesting box was large enough to contain 15 mice that could comfortably nest there simultaneously. Calhoun described it as, thus there were 4 4-unit walk-up, 1-room apartments in each cell. There was a wire mesh food hopper in contact with the right-hand tunnel of each set of 4 tunnels. These mesh hoppers were large enough that 25 mice could feed simultaneously from each one. And on the roofs of these little mouse blocks of flats or apartment complexes were large water bottles. Each one was big enough that 2 mice could simultaneously drink from each bottle. And on top of this, there was an abundancy of paper strips provided to the mice as nesting materials. It's literally everything a mouse could want in life. All of their base needs are taken.
Honestly, I wonder if these mice were partying a little too hard and that's why they died. Make some nest like a ball. Feed out of a hopper like a boss. Get in an apartment like a boss. Like that.
That is, it kind of is looking like that's what it was.
Got it.
Working it out mathematically based on the average takes a mouse amount of food or drink water, something like that, it was calculated that food would only become a limiting factor at a population of 9,500 mice. Water would become the limiting factor at 6,001.
Now, so you get we've already talked about how there would be they never reached capacity for any of these factors. So I'm just gonna skip through this and show you what happened when it started off. See, hold on. Hold on. Let me just get to the pot.
Maintained anywhere between 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. From a few could fall into the add to that the fact that the entire population of mice came from the National Institutes of Health breeding colony, which took extreme precautions. There were no types of disease in any of the mice that were given over to this study to prevent any problems from diseases, pathogens, contaminants, anything like that were replaced. Any access to the mice, the only things that
I love that picture. It's like I'm sick of working in this Chinese mouse factory. Fuck this, I'm done. Look at that picture. Guys?
I keep imagining it like being like some Stuart Little zip line, the part of the movie where he zip lines.
Yeah.
Do we have a Mouse Impossible?
Oh, that's great. That's absolutely great. I'm Pat Mouse. just yeah. Or yeah, or this could be like a National Lampoon mouse version. Just like, how did I get up here? Wow.
The zany antics of Mouse Utopia.
Yeah. See, this is how they started dying off. They were like those Russians doing backflips. They just didn't know when to stop. It'd be like, yo, what's up, bro? You getting that Instagram up? Yo, Gucci gang. So anyway, just wanted to show that.
Now all it needed was to have some mice in it. Day one saw the introduction of the first inhabitants of the Mouse Utopia. 8 mice, 4 male, 4 female. The Adams and Eves of this new Eden, if you will. Using a population graph, we can track the mouse population throughout the entirety of this study, which, with retrospect, can be broken down into 4 distinct phases. Phase 1, the first 100 days, has been termed the Strive period. It was a period of adjustment and exploration, and a few disputes as territories were established. Day 104 marked the transition from Phase A to Phase B, when the first litters were born. Phase B was the phase of the most rapid growth seen in the Mouse Utopia. It has been named the Exploit period. Population doubles about every 5 days. Even though resources are plentiful and are available evenly throughout the environment, the birth distribution is not even. In fact, it exhibits a very interesting pattern of bilateral symmetry, a pattern that is not optimal in a radially symmetrical environment. The northeast brooding groups only produced 13 young in the 252 days, whereas the opposite southwest brood group produced 8 times as many, 111. When these numbers are plotted on a graph measuring the number of pups to the number of pups per brood, a very interesting and distinct pattern of hierarchical ordering is found. Basically, the dominant males bred with more females than the less dominant males, and the population distribution here is really rather interesting, where the dominant male stakes out his territory and brings on board many females because of his social dominance. More females are likely to go because that's the dominant male. they want to have his babies. And this grouping of females attracts other males, some of whom are allowed to stick around and others of whom get chased off. Obviously, the ones who get chased off are moved further away from that area. So this is a rather distinct pattern of social dominance. And it demonstrates that even if all resources are evenly available everywhere, populations will not spread themselves out evenly. Because in the social game, who is just as much of a resource as what. These mice did not cluster here because of what was available. They clustered there because of who was available.
In which case,
beginning.
What?
yeah, I'm just saying, in which case, this basically, I mean, I'm not saying that it necessarily translates to humans, but I mean, it illustrates the fact that people are not equal.
Yeah.
No matter how much what you do, just people are not equal.
Why would you say that?
Or equal in all areas. I suppose I should correct a little bit, but the point is that people are not, not people are not the same. There are, there's certain traits.
Well, I mean, and you know what? I wonder if this is part of the reason why communism will never work. Just
Well, I mean,
you gotta because anarcho-communism means no hierarchy. Well, if that's the case,
or very little hierarchy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way to do it is to force it, basically. Because, I mean, basically, the only time communism has worked is in, like, tiny little groups, generally, in some commune somewhere.
Yeah, even then,
that's about it.
Even then, it's, like, all voluntary, and you leave when you want to, and you get all your real resources from the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they do have, like, it where, like, even though they share, most of the time they don't. They just, like, this is mine. But they choose to like give away, like like that. There's that like one slab place or whatever in like California, which is like the closest thing to an anarcho-communist.
Well, that's more. Yeah. I mean, they get all of their research from welfare though. So
yeah, slab city.
I mean, the other thing is none of these anarcho-communist places are like doing any cutting-edge research. They're not building anything. It's just mainly, they're existing in relatively decent fashion, but they're not like producing like medicines or nothing is being created. Basically,
nothing's being done. Nothing is being done like of significance. It's just, hey, we're here.
It's subsisting
here.
It's subsisting maybe well, or equally well amongst the commune, but it's not like. They're not creating vaccines or antibiotics or some other crap, basically. Is what I'm saying.
Well, and actually, the whole problem with and you can even see it in just this part of it breaks it all down to nuts and bolts. Is that at some point you have fundamentally about 20 to 30% of the males in any group with every possibility available. There is nothing. The wind doesn't even blow. So there's no discomfort whatsoever, and that it still comes down to 20 to 30% of the males are going to reproduce, and that for no good reason, there will be groups of fundamentally ostracized for whatever point. It could be that it having spots is that's where it's at. Everybody needs a star on their belly. Whatever it is that is bred for trait, and for such an environment, they're saying they're in paradise. They've bred that they're already breeding for a trait that the rats intrinsically know, and that's it. There's nothing that can be done. That's what nature does.
So basically, alpha mice.
Yeah, and it'll appear in any environment, and because of that, you will never incentivize males to do anything more than subsist. So therefore, society will collapse over about a generation's time.
Well, I mean, think about why marriage exists. I mean, because if it was just like this, it would just go insane. Like we're if left to our own devices, and that's why I don't like marriage courts, because they incentivize women divorcing after having babies with one person, then going to another Chad, And you know what? More women who were like 7 out of 10s would date 7s. More women who were like 4s would date 4s. You know, and 2s would just not fuck each other because they just were like, oh, I can't. I don't even want to fuck myself. You know, just.
I'm just trying to think of like what the communist response to this is. Like, what we have to obliterate mouse culture because it's conditioning the babies, or like what the fuck? What is your what would a communist response?
Well, here's
be?
actually the funniest part about with all Marxism.
I know this is Mao. My name Mao. My name Mao Zedong. Now I have good solutions.
Mao Zedong.
Well, no. Remember,
we control population and through law.
This has always been the problem with Marxism. Marxism came into existence before Darwin published. So he didn't know there was a thing called evolution. Not even the concept that any population would breed to adapt to an environment. He literally, his actual philosophy for, like, in the Bible, say, the Bible itself actually has a part about it where I think it's Jacob. Jacob breeds a certain flock of sheep so they look like his sheep. They all have spots, I think is what he did. He bred them for spots. So he tricked his stepdad, and he basically got more sheep because he kept breeding sheep with spots. And his stepdad's flocks had no spots. And so he kept mixing the groups, or he did something that would give him more. And he was tricking him. Jacob was tricking him because he had worked 7 years for the bride. So for at that point, this shows that 4,000 years ago, people knew you could breed for an outcome. Marx,
real quick,
rejecting everything that had existed beforehand, Marx had actually fundamentally had not applied such an idea to human civilizations.
Well,
so,
Donovan, do you mind if I say this?
Yeah.
By the way, when it comes to Marx himself, there's a lot of evidence that he might have been heavily involved with the Rothschilds bank, because he kept talking about central banking all the time. But he advocated a moneyless, classless society, and that's why Bucco, I think that's what his name is, Bucco or something like that, an anarcho-communist, called him out. You know, even like Engels and Marx were both lambasted, I think, by Bucco, who advocated anarcho-communism, while Marx himself, you know, had the classical state transitional communism. You know what I mean?
Real quick, in regards to the Origin of Species came out about 8 years before Capital came out, but I mean 8 years isn't very long for stuff to spread. So I mean, I can. So yeah, Das Kapital came out 8 years after Origin of Species. But then again, like, his ideas probably weren't widely accepted by then, I don't think. But anyways,
Marx would have been building up his career up to Das Kapital in his lecture period, where he's, you know, showing up places and lecturing. So he so basically, while the research is going on at Galapagos, he's building his entire philosophy up. And so by the time you end up getting to the point where he's publishing, he can't throw Darwinian evolution in, also because no one had discussed it yet. You know, no one had sat around and batted these ideas around. And have to start figuring out, you know, like, okay, where do we see this, you know, here in the British Isles, you know, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. I was just clarifying.
No. I'm glad. I was kind of wondering who had published first. I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, but I am saying, though, I think it's important to remember, like I was saying, you know, like that there's a lot of evidence that, you know, other banks like J.P. Morgan, the Rothschilds, which, by the way, translates to Red Shield in German, were like heavily like related to a lot of like the Marx family. And Marx was a Jew as well. I'm not saying that Jews are like the bad people of the world, but the Rothschilds is a primarily Jewish German bank. And Marx got called out by Bucco about his policies, because Bucquo's like, why would we have a central bank if it was a moneyless, classless society? So Bucquo was like one of the only Marxists that was actually, I think, genuine. So when you look at it, there's always this weirdness, and even more suspicious, but yet somewhat hilarious, although very tragic at the same time. Marx tried to teach his daughter this her whole life about not having a family, about like that's oppressive to women, and so she would have many partners over many years, and then there was one particular partner that was her favorite. She had many at the time while she was dating other people, and they were both like anti-capitalists. And it was this particular partner who was her favorite, who also lived with her, to share the rents or whatever. He got killed. I can't remember how he died, but she committed suicide and said that she couldn't stand being without him.
Wow,
that really
that's
tells you
kind of
something.
depressing.
Like this idea that women do not need no man, and that the family unit is oppressive. But it's just such an interesting little microcosm of just how wrong Marx really was. Like his own.
Yeah, it's really like the thing about his ideas that end up kind of being so. One of the things is his rejection of both Judaism and Christianity, and that the whole history of it all, like that was his view, is it's all over. He was like a lot of those philosophers of that time, that it's like, oh, that was an era of darkness. And so to him, so here's the interesting thing with him in banking, is he actually thought that capitalism is the true mechanism by which Jews obtain power over everyone. He actually is one of these many that Germanic group in Germany, these people who really hated British or the Anglosphere's sense of free trade. They loathe that shit, and they like the idea of one person in the hierarchy says, and the people lower in the hierarchy do. And that's really the cultural view of Marxism. That's what they want. That's what they'll create. But they'll say, we don't want that. No. See, you guys, you have your priests and you have this, and it's all oppressing us. And then, but when you get to the end of the road of Marxism, you end up with an iron hard mountain of who's above who, and you have to bribe everybody for bread. And it's actually, in a way, I've literally thought Marxism is the manifestation of the government of, quote unquote, the world, as Christians refer to it. That it is literally the way that the ultimate system of an evil totalitarian, everybody is begging each other for cigarettes and bread like it's prison.
Oh, and you need the mark. You need the mark of the beast to even do trade.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick, by the way, I've kind of looked at, I did a cursory search into the Rothschild Karl Marx connection like a while back, and I couldn't really, I didn't find some of the sites that I was looking at. I didn't know any of their reputation, so if you guys could send like a link either via Discord or Twitter or something like that,
sure.
I'd love to take a look at some, whatever you guys are looking at and take a look at that. But
you have Discord? I didn't know you had Discord.
Yeah, I have Discord. I kind of use it a little bit, but
well, just send it to me. Just send me a link. But regardless, here's the thing. Robert Greene is also a Jew, but he wrote the 48 Laws of Power, as I've told you guys about before.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And in Law 40 says, despise a free lunch. What is offered for free usually has a hidden obligation or a price. And he talks about how there's like all these fables, and there's this one fable I really, really liked, where it's called a miser or something like that, which is pretty obvious. A miserly man and took all of his funds and melted it down into a solid gold brick out of fear that one of the people working for him was going to steal it. He hid it under a rock, and because of suspicion, the man found the gold and took it with him, and he wept and cried. Then a wise man came by and said, "How about this? To make yourself feel better, why don't you take a rock, and put it under the rock you hid the gold under. After all, it has the same value, considering you were never going to spend it. And I was just like, wow. And there's another one that's even better, where like a miserly man, this is a different story, was held on to every shekel that he could for many years. And then one day he went into the woods and he was attacked by a tiger. And the tiger didn't hurt him at first. The tiger carried him away by his clothes. And so then his son came in running and tried to save his dad. And then the man said, "Wait, before you kill the tiger, do not pierce its skin. We could use the hide. We could sell it for a large penny. Do not do it." By the time he had the chance by the time he was done talking, the tiger ran off with him in a part of the woods that the son could not find, and was later killed. And now I know that's all about miserly behavior, but when you think about it, it kind of demonstrates this idea that, you know, something is free. And in order for communism to work, you would have to have it be free. And math alone says, if this is a world that can be measured, they knew the world was round at this point. That means it's a finite amount of matter that even exists. Mathematically, it is literally impossible to have infinite anything. So, and you see it all the time, people who are these bargain demons. You know, they're always looking for the cheapest price out there. And yet they're not even satisfied with the products. They're satisfied because they didn't have to spend their money. They oftentimes have things that they have to rebuy all the time because they break, and you know, maybe they're always looking for that kind of stuff. People who are looking for the free lunch are oftentimes heavily manipulated by people like Yellow Kid Wild, who is one of the greatest con artists of all time. You know, people who are always thinking that there's that money comes easy, that wealth comes easy, are always easily tricked. So when you think about it, this is one Jew telling another Jew, no. If communism could work, everyone could eat for free. You know, that it's just stupid. You know, there's tons of, you know what I mean?
Well, at the heart of a lot of the problem, Marx thought there was personal truth. He's one of the key sources where being a Hegelian, that he thought there was a personal truth, and he's really where you get like the mass popularity of that, and that was carried through into the modern era. Like it went hand in hand with occultism and like the Hermetic tradition and stuff like that, where you could just create reality as
an idea.
Yeah, you know, that if you knew the right magic incantations, you could make communism work. You know, it was almost that. And while to us now, we would think that's dumb as hell, because we've even seen movies and TV shows that to try to teach us when we were children, no, you know, you can't pretend about the world. That's, you know, and you have to grow up, and there's all these enriching movies and shows that try to teach us how to become adults and stuff, you know. But with the whole problem though is what we're seeing right now in the streets and in the schools is that no, the culture has embraced a new order, and this new order believes that if I scream loud enough, I can make economics totally change. I can make the laws of the universe change. Gravity will listen to me.
Fucking biology.
Yeah, biology.
The fat acceptance, where fat like fucking it's not fucking biology and fatness that makes people unhealthy. No, it's people making fun of fat people that makes them unhealthy. Like, what the fuck is this shit?
And you know what I always tell them in response? Wait a minute, why would that matter? Because when you think about it, biology tells us that the reason why social acceptance even matters in the first place was because people, in order to survive, needed to work as a team, meaning that there is biological imperatives that tell us how we see the world. And if we are a lonely person, we see the world as we're going to die. Like, we need a team. That means that biology is real. Like, why would it matter what other people think unless you are biologically going to die?
I mean, I will grant them that, like, some social pressures and some stress and stuff like that can cause some health problems. But that does not fucking mean that clogging your arteries or whatever is not gonna kill you. Like,
Exactly.
God damn it.
Oh my god, it's so funny. It's so funny. And my response is, okay, but why is it that humans are fat? Why is it that humans can even get fat? Does it have to do with, I don't know, the fact that for thousands of years we didn't have enough access to food? So our biology said we need to store food so that way if we're starving, we don't die. That maybe there's something to do with biology that teaches us how we live. If biology is just a figment of your imagination, then guess what? My response is, well, biology doesn't exist. You don't exist. Like, you physically do not exist in this world. I'm literally talking to a ghost person. And sorry, I don't listen to ghosts because ghost lives don't matter. No, what the fuck are you talking about?
Now, you guys saw that controversial, like those 3 academics that have been publishing all those papers, doing a study.
Yeah, I heard about it. Yeah, and
that's magnificent. Oh, I love it. Fat
this
body.
Isn't the first time either.
Oh.
There was like a very prominent physicist or whatever.
There you go. Yeah, he said it.
Absolute. Huh?
Arcion, I think, said the name of the guy.
Well,
there was like a physicist. I don't know if Arcion knows the name. I don't remember the name, but like he basically he like I think he wrote like an introduction and then he wrote complete gibberish in the middle. Absolute complete gibberish. And he submitted it and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we have a."
Hold on, wait. I think I'm thinking of the name. Wait, is it Dawkins? No, wait, Dawkins is biology. So.
No, it wasn't. It was a physicist. It was a physicist.
Yeah,
Dawkins is like a biologist or whatever, right?
It was something like Dr. Skokel or something like that. And
shit!
And he just wrote this gibberish paper to see if it would get published. And so now these people, it's a decade later, and they were doing a study to see how many papers they could get published. And they finally started, depending upon a touch of humor, is the way they put it, to, really see if they could get it, like really make it tough on themselves. And they actually, the average is you will publish a paper about once, I think, every 2 years. The way that they looked, I think, if I remember their math on this, they ended up getting accepted into journals something like 7 times, with 7 still waiting to be accepted. They had only done this study, I think, for like 9 months at the time, or it was shocking how short of a time they had been up to this. And now the weirdest part about this is that when I'm like reading through this article, I did a video on it where I just read through it. I think I've served one of these guys coffee. Like he writes for one of the local weeklies. I mean, and so what I'm like, no way, you've been in deep cover. Like he's like, now this, I'm not sure. I'm not absolutely certain, but I looked and I'm like, yeah, you're based out of Portland. You look fucking familiar in this photo, and I've seen your last name. Your last name is way too Armenian. It's like Bogosian or something like that. And I'm like, wait a second, I know that last name. That's like a last name around this town. There's somebody who writes in a newspaper under that name.
Wait on, hold on. Kasparian, Sarkeesian. Oh, I get it. Okay, so there's a lot of Ians in Armenians, huh?
Yeah, and there's another group that I'm forgetting also.
Wait, I gotta ask a question. Do you think Anita Sarkeesian denies the Armenian genocide?
Oh, I know, right? Oh my God.
I mean, I think she said it was like we didn't deny it or something, but I mean, like she's really covering for Cenk because Cenk hasn't said like, oh, it happened. No, he's like, I don't have enough information that it happened.
Yeah. Do you think they fuck? Do you think they fuck? Do you think that's
I don't know idea.
Well, all I know now.
I think they do, but I think Anna does it because probably because they probably like each other a little bit. But I think Anna's mostly like, he's my boss. I can definitely if I'm doing him, it's a little easier to not get fired.
No, it could be, but I mean, the whole thing with Cenk is it's now almost down to dimes to donuts that this guy is a placed person. He first started as a conservative, like a Fox-ish conservative. Then he ends up seeing the light. And he even I heard him tell this story. I remember his show back in the day. He tells this story about him and his dad sitting down and going through the Quran line by line and having a moment where, Dad, do you really think this happened? Because I've got to tell you, I can't tell you I really believe this, Dad. And then, and they have the cats in the cradle and the silver spoon, that this moment. And everything. And I still, when I think back on this, I'm like, God damn it, Donovan, you were such a chump. The propaganda was so easy to see through. God, you chump. But I remembered it. Because there's something about it was a little too picturesque. And so it's looking like what he really is probably somebody placed in the media by the network of people associated with Fethullah Gulen.
You mean Al Jazeera? I mean, they're literally partnered with Al Jazeera.
Yeah, exactly. No, they're a part of the realm of, and so this is actually like Arsion. You had specifically dealt with this end of the culture, the Freemasons. This would be the kind of people who, in the 1920s, people like this would have all met at the lodge. They would be good Muslims, quote unquote. They're good Muslims.
Oh yeah, they would always say like a good man of character. And I remember, and you know what? Fuck the Masons. I'm gonna say this. Here's one of the things you literally say when you're taking the oath, and I don't give a fuck if they don't like it. You literally said, I swear to secrecy, or I swear to have my tongue cut out. I'm sorry. No, it was my eyes gouged, my heart stabbed, and my tongue cut out and thrown into the sea at low tide. And just as the sands come over, something like that. Like they literally make you say that while they push a sword against your nipple, which is and you literally hang out like a breast pocket while you're in these robes. Not even fucking kidding.
Yeah.
So it's creepy as fuck. But go ahead.
But that this realm of thinking, like how they're like, oh, why is it that Al Jazeera would fund this guy who has left Islam and now he's arguing for the Democratic Party? Why would these people be associated, one would ask? It would be very logical to think they should not have like the same state of mind, right? Well,
wait,
no.
Who's funding? Who are you saying funding?
Well, no. Why would these two groups? Oh, Al Jazeera helped fund the Young Turks. And
they had a partnership. Yeah.
And so one would think, like, why would these two groups? It would be like the some televangelist funding, TJ, the atheist. So it's like, how would these people have anything in common?
I'll be right back, guys. I'll be right back. I gotta eat something. I haven't eaten all day. So I'll be right back.
Okay. I don't know. I haven't seen any direct proof of funding, but there definitely was a partnership. They announced it. I think the video's still up. Like they're still partnered with, and because Al Jazeera is basically it's owned by the Qatari government. So there's that.
Well, and that's the thing, is that this would be a type of milieu of thought of people who are more concerned about a type of civil society outcome, a certain type of governance. This country is the dominant country in a region, or that country is a dominant region in the country. They're not really concerned about the religion as a tradition. So if if one guy is in some weird sect, another guy, he's really kind of more of a communist. That's fine, because they agree on some set of principles that they don't tell the rest of us.
Are you saying that you think basically the Gulf states are doing the same thing as what was that Russian defector? I forget his name. who was saying like basically said the KGB was like gonna subvert like America's culture or whatever.
Oh, that's
Uh,
actually, I mean, that's already the Muslim Brotherhood is a thing we helped start or fund. Actually, not start. We helped fund it. It is
Mhm.
a kind of a they make themselves out as they have a view that is pan-Islamic across the Islamic world, that they want a certain way of life. Well, that really is something we've been funding because it makes it easier to hide our political assets as members of civil and religious and cultural societies in other countries. Similar to if we were to do it with Christian missionaries, this would be very difficult because they would stick out. But if we have people in there who are supposedly very highly educated, Muslim scholars, and they are even so educated, they're like, look, it says it right here. You should have a hijab on when I see you. Um, that such people we use them to influence society, and that's why the Muslim Brotherhood took over Egypt, and that Barack Obama was like, yay, I like that. They're going to be a great government for Egypt, and everybody in the Muslim world's like, oh, you are fucking shitting me. And that the people of Egypt and then the military, they're the tradition. They're the group that's like, no, 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 no. This is our space. It's called Egypt. We're not giving up a fucking inch. You can't fuck with us. And they put down, with the help of Russia, the Muslim Brotherhood takeover of the government. And so, like, with the Turkish end of that realm is the Gulen network. That was our little bunch of buddies in that country. And when the coup happened, it was the Gulenists who they were the ones who did the coup, possibly. And
I mean, that's the allegation, at least by
that's the allegation.
everyone.
Yeah, that's the allegation. It's looking more and more like that is likely, because there's also been the Gulen network had all their funding cut off, and the Young Turks went bananas. They went bananas about other stuff. They suddenly they double and triple disliked the choice of Donald Trump's tie. They hated his sniffing even more. Hitler drank water too. All of it. But they were really mad. They were really mad, and it would just seem to, coincide. Just like, oh, hey, we just made sure that it's really hard for Fethullah Gulen to fund any operations here in the United States, MAGA, and then suddenly there's Cenk Uyghur. Fuck Trump. Fuck.
Wait a minute, what did I just step into? What's going on here? I'm hearing about invasions. Nigga, what's going on here?
I sort of no, but that's why it's like, it's so fun if you've been watching the Gulen network and you've been watching the Islamic occult world and that whole thing, and to see once Trump cuts off the ability for the Gulen network to fund their operations here in the States, all of a sudden, not only is Cenk mad, not only is Cenk piping hot mad, Cenk is melting lamb on a spit. He's like bursting into flames. He's so mad. He's like, just Jabba Ika Chuba solo. He's fucking mad as shit.
Oh my god, that's so great. That is so great. I'm sorry, guys. I had to make some meatballs. They're very tasty meatballs. But anyway, I am back, ladies and gentlemen, and especially ladies. I am very much back. Well, anyway, let me show you what happens here.
Available. Day 315 marked the beginning of Phase C, known as the stagnation phase. The reproductive rate of the universe declined drastically, only doubling about every 145 days. and showed several marked changes in male and female behavior. A lot of the younger mice became very withdrawn, and they didn't vie for any sort of territory because all of the territory had already been claimed. They merely clustered together on the floor of the universe, but they would exhibit quite high levels of aggression towards other socially withdrawn mice. This generation notably had a lot more scar tissue and scabs and chewed tails as a result of this constant fighting. During this time among the socially withdrawn males, sexual deviancy began to manifest, with males increasingly mounting other males. The general fertility of females declined and the rate of reabsorption of fetuses increased.
And when they say reabsorption, they either mean in the womb or they mean like eating them.
I know, yeah. I noticed that too. I was like, reabsorb. Oh, I didn't notice that the first time. Like, oh,
Yeah,
oh,
I kind of.
And they probably mean both. They probably mean both. That's
Yeah, I mean, it's.
No,
I mean, 'cause
wait
the thing
a
is, I
minute.
had guppies.
No.
I had guppies, and they tended to reabsorb their young as well. So,
like they would be like, huh? Well, you're not gonna survive in my belly.
or
Oh
just
my
I'm
God.
hungry.
It's kind of like when Dugin says, you know, the Slavic states are going to have to be compatible with Russia. Compatible, you say?
Yeah, how many bullets are you gonna expend making them compatible?
Does compatible mean at the force of a nuclear arm? Just trying to get the full
just a
story.
bunch of little ones.
Sir? What's up?
Just a bunch of small arms to the back of the head, and yeah.
Like, I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse. I promise you, he won't be able to say no.
This sounds legit.
behavior also became less prevalent, and even more interesting, because the males weren't to define territories and claim new territory, nursing females.
Wait, here's the question: why are those mice like red? The hell?
Oh, yeah, that's the health, and also due to the fact that they've been fighting each other. That's scar tissue and blood.
Alrighty then.
And I think some of the dyeing that's been done to some of their fur is to indicate generations as well, like who's bred with who, possibly.
Maybe.
Because some of them are purple and green and things like that.
That's true.
And so I think those ones are dyed because of some other purpose to mark them. But yeah, there's there's so much scar tissue on some of these. It's just terrible.
So do these infighting amongst these, is this the incel rebellion?
Yes, I would say so. Like the incels. Listen, I have not gotten my penis sucked, and I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger, and you will know my name is Nicholas Cruz when I strike my wrath down upon thee. There you go. I think we just made a movie.
Oh, I am sure there's gonna be some movie about some of these shootings at some point. Hollywood's running out of ideas.
Yeah. Well, now they're doing a Black Lives Matter fiction story. But they couldn't find a story that wouldn't be debunked to no end, so they literally made up one. Like, did you see the trailer for that? I can't remember what it was, but it was like some movie where some girl's boyfriend goes out and I don't know. He's out of the car.
Yeah, and he grabs like his comb or like a brush.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and I do it immediately. I'm like, why is he grabbing a brush like an idiot?
Like he told him just to stay right there, and all of a sudden he gets shot because he was being a dumbass. And now all of a sudden there's this huge conversation about the way police is treating us. Like they couldn't even have it where the guy did nothing. Like they couldn't even have it where the guy did nothing wrong, was just sitting there and nothing wrong. They had to make it so that way. Well, he technically did something he wasn't supposed to do, but it was a comb, man. Come on. Even though the cop had no way of knowing whether it was a gun or a comb because he was told stay there. So they can't even. So even when they're trying to bullshit you, they can't even. They're bullshitting the bullshit. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and no, it's the thing that I kind of have thought about, because there's a guy on YouTube named Al Prophet, and he does these short, or not, well, no, long and short pieces on real crime, big deal networks of crime that would control whole sections of cities. The early funding of rap music by Supreme and his Coke gang and all this kind of stuff. And so if people knew like what they wanted to protest against police about, this they would be confronting like big organized crime things, and they would be like, oh, they would suddenly know too much about their politicians. They would know way too much about, oh no, that people have no problem taking the money and staying quiet. No, it would be too real. So instead, they're going with non-reality, with these like, oh, Trayvon did nothing, this guy did nothing, that guy did nothing.
And did you see the Trayvon? Like, there's a Viacom, there's a Paramount Network miniseries called Rest in Power, Trayvon Martin, and I watched it. And I loved the hell out of it because it was well produced, but also because it literally made Trayvon look worse. Like they literally had it where like they said like now the lawyer, he was like saying this stuff that I thought was really, really wrong for the court because it's gonna make Trayvon look bad. Like yeah, this one witness like stand up on the the podium, and so the prosecutor, the prosecutor, like said like I had it where like he was doing like a specific motion where like he was punching like where Trayvon was punching him in the head. And saying like, well, sir, witness, sir, like police officer, sir, whatever. Would this be consistent with head trauma that you saw on the victim? And he'd be like, no. But then, of course, the defense got up and was like, yeah, but it's not even what he was claiming. He was claiming he was on his back, and he was claiming like he was getting hit from behind. But then when they came onto the sidewalk, that he was that he was on his back once they rolled over. And that he was having his head slammed against the sidewalk. And so then the defense attorney gets up and says, okay, how about this? When it came to the slamming of the head on the sidewalk, would it be consistent with something like this? And in between, while he was doing the slamming, you would hear these people saying, I thought that it was really wrong to defense that he was like saying this shit. And like, he was like, putting that image. And he was putting that image, and they had a jury. That they jury can't stop thinking about it.
Oh my God!
And guess what? Right, they go to commercial right after. Like they cut to the expert saying yes, boom, commercial. Right there.
Like that moment where they're like, the sheer amount of dumbness that the audience has just been exposed to has too many dumb rads, and they need to take their dumb rat away. So they, this ghoul of stupidity.
Right when you're saying basically right when the expert undermines the prosecution or whatever, they cut to commercial basically.
Well, they literally allow him to say yes. It's like I thought that it was extremely misleading that this man be like doing this.
Totally, all that kind of language makes me crazy.
Yeah, and then it'd be like and then it would cut like this is consistent with the marks, and then the prosecution would be like, I honestly thought it was really bad that the defense did this. Yes, cut to commercial. Like they show him get up, and I thought back to the person, and that it was really bad. Blah blah blah. A person. Blah blah blah. Person. And is this consistent? And I thought it was so misleading, and that he did that. And then all of a sudden, yes, commercial, like right there, like just yeah. I mean,
I mean, I haven't seen it, so I can't really judge. But I mean, in regards to just some of the stuff on the far left, it's just I don't. It's gone so far that it's basically black propaganda. Like this shit. Like I mean, like
see why your heart is broken.
I don't know if you've seen, huh?
I can see why your heart is broken now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because like you see the Michelle Wolf thing, and it's like we want abortions to be like a burger at McDonald's. Like, like what the fuck are you talking about?
Hi there,
Like,
welcome to a
Jesus
border.
Christ.
We don't care about your life. We just want to serve you.
I mean, it's like what you want. Like I don't know how many burgers that fucking McDonald's sells a day, but you want that? Like, it's just like what the fuck is this analogy, and why? Who wrote this fucking analogy, and why?
I gotta say,
God damn it.
I totally agree. Like it coming from the old sort of view of the Democratic Party, like this post FDR, like my family were all kind of the beat. They were cool when beatniks were cool, you know, and so it's like I totally get this idea of like, no, this is not supposed to be like McDonald's. This is like a really tragic, you know, event in someone's life. That's why we have you know, condoms, people, you know, come on, where this is a modern country, you know, and that you're real,
Well, I mean,
you know,
not just that, we have a whole slew of contraceptives. Like if you don't want to get pregnant, it's like like there's giant piles of contraceptives, of different types of contraceptives.
She just opens up.
If you don't want to get pregnant, you cannot get pregnant.
Like Nicki Minaj opens up her closet, and it's just like it's like a gun rack and a miniature armory. It's like something from John
and
Wick,
a small pharmacy.
Endless guns stacked well and organized and polished, but it's not guns. It's like contraception.
I mean, like seriously, there's so many different ways to do this. It's like if you don't want to get pregnant, chances are you're probably not going to get pregnant. Like there's the tiny chance that you might, but like fucking hell, there's so much.
No, you're
shit.
right.
There are contraceptions that you can take that stay in you. So even if you're being raped, you can prevent that.
You know, actually, technically, by the numbers, you are correct. What when you look at the actual, like, they talk to a woman has the baby in her arms, and they interview her. You know, the medical experts. They put all the charts together over the last few months, and they find out. So this woman was on birth control, simply stopped taking it. Now she has a baby.
What a surprise!
Now this is something like
What a surprise.
this is some unbelievably large number of like the way Americans are born. It's like it's something like I think we actually are at 70% of people are completely unplanned. And then it's like and that usually is they call it non-compliance. So if you have been, you know, I don't want to get pregnant, doctor, take these pills. Then she did not comply with taking the pills at this month. She then got pregnant. And so that's like how they'll put it, you know, like in, I guess, medical terminology, if you're trying to like look through it all. And so that's how it works. Like it's just
like,
seven out of 10 births, people are like, whoa, how'd that happen?
I put a gun to my foot and pulled the trigger and was immediately surprised that a bullet went into my foot.
What? How'd that happen?
What a wacky thing, guys. I mean, wow. What a wacky world we're living in.
And so it actually says a lot about even for people who have especially come out of the, like, say, the modern end of Catholic education, where like when I was in school, they had this thing called Family Life. It was the Catholics' answer to sex ed and everything, and it was incredibly comprehensive. by the time I was in public high school, sophomore year, I was practically able to teach the fucking class everyone was taking. And so I just couldn't believe it. And I talked to other Catholics many years later, and they were like, oh, yeah, I totally remember that program. And so I actually started to, I was aghast when I found out 7 out of every 10.
Are you still part of the faith? I'm just curious.
No, I haven't been back for a long, long time. I went back for one Easter Mass.
Or are you just agnostic?
Oh no, I've returned to the Christian faith. The Catholic Church, I still have now serious problems with what I believe is legitimately communist infiltration.
Oh yeah, I hear this in the Knights of Columbus all the time. They're like, we might have to like literally we might have to make the church fall and then keep the real belief of Christianity alive and restart with our own organization.
It's starting to get, yeah, it's it's that the word nobody wants to, people are saying stuff that they don't want to have to say about the Catholic Church inside of it. And yeah, it's going to be rough. But yeah, the whole idea that the planning parenthood, it's great as a set of words, but really we don't have, because public education doesn't have a comprehensive moral or philosophical system, they can't teach any of that in a way that makes sense, because they would have to, in some way, shape, or form, show you the limitation. Like, these mice don't have limitations. Humans do have limitations. Like, is it the economic limitation? Is it the limitation that you are having a child with somebody of a different culture that's so different that it will be very difficult for your families to get along? All kinds of things like that. And
not only that, these mice do have limitations. Their own desire for who?
Oh, there you go. Boom. Or just, yes. And then there's that. Then, sexual market value and all those laws that only now you young men know, because you know all the secrets now because of the power of the internet,
I'm looking at 2013 stats. It's like 50%. So I mean, I guess maybe it's increased since then or something like that. But
oh,
still,
really?
like,
God dang, that's even just 50%.
That's a giant, like 50% unplanned. So
wait, guys, we should start a hashtag. We should start a hashtag called dignity equals birth control. Just say like plan something like that. And we should, like, in the hashtag, we should literally like troll Planned Parenthood by telling them, hey, Planned Parenthood, we got a great way for you to plan that parenthood. It's called close your damn legs. I mean, it's only like a minute amount of actual abortions are at all related to rape. And I always thought to myself, wait a minute, the kid is going to die. I don't know about the rapist, but the kid's gonna die. Did he have any say? Like, so it's suddenly the kid's fault. Well, that's an awkward turn of events. I never really thought of it that way. I always thought you're both kind of victims. And wait, you can give the kid up for adoption after it's born, but you're gonna kill it anyway. What? you know what I mean?
Well, that's one of the things that's going to come up probably within about the next decade is the discussion of when life starts, because that's never, the baby boomers did not map that out. My generation, Gen X, we have not taken that on seriously. Like, growing up, I never heard of Ayn Rand, the Austrians, any of that kind of thinking. Any of the libertarian stuff of arguing, first principles and stuff like that. And so now, because so many people understand that stuff and are so well versed in it, that, I mean, the discussion about what is a human life, who has rights when, that's going to start. It's going to be interesting when that comes up, somebody's going to say it. All the leftists are going to shit themselves. All the journalists are going to be like, this is the libertarian argument for taking away rights. But it's going to be, well, no, but who has rights and when? We need to actually decide that as a culture. And that requires, to some degree, a real agreement.
And of course,
I mean, the thing is, though, I mean, even in regards to this, like, Ruth Ginsburg or whatever was talking about how, like, Roe versus Wade was a mistake. They should have gone through, like, legislative means or something along those lines. I think there's a quote of her saying that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, my response is like, well, when does life begin? My response is this: right at the zygote. Guess what? And if it doesn't, then you cannot consider single-celled organisms on Mars to be alive. There you go. Because the zygote is a multicellular organism, and it's going to grow as long as you don't fuck it up into a human being. So
I'm just for the record, I'm pro-choice. So but anyways, just want to put that on record. But
holy shit, we started off talking about marriage and mice.
Well, I mean, marriage does lead to kids, right? Usually.
Well, I'm not sure.
Okay, I mean, generally.
Control for a few weeks and just find out. Ah, well, now I need to go get an abortion. By the way, did you see Red Eyes TV shilling for Margaret Sanger?
What?
Oh, Red Eyes TV was shilling for Margaret Sanger.
Really?
Not even kidding. Did you see it?
No. I usually they're one of the key people to point out, like, how her ideas were exported to, like, places like Sweden and stuff like that, And
well, I mean, it's just hilarious. I mean, honestly, Lana Latkev and her husband Heinrich, they're just sellouts. Honestly, if you really look into it. But I'll show you that video some other time. It's hilarious. I'm gonna be doing a response where I say I was just hired by Red Eyes as their PR manager, and so during this video I have to defend everything they say, and my character's shit. You're like, what? Wait a minute. Well, what am I supposed to say to that? Oh, well, if you just think about it like this, or if you don't think about it, and then by the end I'm like, oh, fuck this, I quit. I can't do this job.
I mean, one of the things about Margaret Sanger, though, is, like, she was a eugenicist. Like, there's quotes of her saying, like, we need to, like, quit, get rid of the undesirables or some shit like that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well.
Yeah, it's always funny to see fake right wingers try to defend Margaret Sanger. And you know what? I mean, like, dude, you're pro-choice, but I mean, I'm sure you're, like, pro-choice, but with a reason, of course. You're not like saying.
I am not pro-abortion like fucking Michelle Wolf. We'll put it that way.
If you want an abortion, get one.
Like, God.
Well, a big part of this that I think a lot of it comes from this era of time of central planning, where there was the idea of, if we don't control the stupid people, that they'll breed like rabbits, and it's actually even an idea that to some degree, like, popped up. You'll see it now and then pop up among kind of various demographic-minded alt-righters, that they're presuming
the idiocracy thing.
That they're presuming that the stupid will just breed at the same rates consistently, and really the rat experiment again shows, wait, no, you might not get that. They might get enough bread and literally just sit around and chew on each other's asses. It's like, you never know. It's like, but the one thing we do know is if you give males the opportunity to move up a class in one generation by learning skills, the outcomes are wealth multipliers that we can't, like we've never seen. That that's our society.
Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley.
Say again?
I said like Silicon Valley.
Well, I mean, like all of America in the 50s, where a bunch of guys got chances to learn a whole bunch of skills and move up a class, and they we have the baby boom.
Yeah,
funny that, and they've been at war for like years.
A lot of guys were alphas too, you know what I mean? And they also had alpha male children. And when you look at it, they say, "Oh, all the stupid people, they'll just reproduce like rabbits." But isn't that what MGTOW is? It's just, or not even MGTOW, but like the incels. Are they just the retards that can't get like? Does that just kind of negate everything that?
Well, no, they're part of that 80 to 70% of males in a generation that, if left completely like to the standard of the world up until about 100 years ago, would never reproduce. It went over the last 100 years because men could learn skills. Men who were basically probably would have never been in the reproduction pool have been able to reproduce. And so we see the odd leap in intelligence happen. That it's like, yeah, he might be, and that's our story of America. The smart kid, the smart guy won. He wasn't tough, but he was smart.
Yeah, but I mean that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's this idea that we need to control the population because otherwise the undesirables are going to come. I like to call it I don't want to have to pay for this syndrome.
It coincides with that. Yeah. It absolutely, they walk hand in hand. Those two mentalities, because you have to have a central directorate or central grand master who will then be like, you can have a sandwich. You must make the sandwich. You can have a baby. Like that's how it says. It would just be pointing, and you can have, you cannot have. I am taking this and giving it to you. It's super crazy. It's
going to go into communism if it happens, because then you're just giving all of the power over to one group of people.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be communism. It could be, fascism or some, like.
Well, it'll be authoritarian.
It doesn't have
to be authoritarian.
Yeah, authoritarian. Yeah.
I mean, my response to them is like, "Oh, you want to do this? Oh, well, why don't you follow China? I think they'll teach you a lot about how to do that the right way."
I mean, they're also getting their fucking their social point system up and running. I'm just like, oh yeah, my gosh, it's gonna be horrifying.
Everyone is about to see the real deal Holyfield. I've been waiting to tell people this. Cyberpunk 2077 is about to be seen in 5 years. Look at Beijing is going to be bananas. It's going to be, people will have crazy guns. They'll have bulletproof jackets. Like, it'll be nuts. People will be, it'll look like nighttime during the day. It already does. Like,
fucking smog, right?
Yeah, and the crime, don't worry, the crime is coming. The crime is coming. Chaos is coming to China, and it's just a matter of time. Those buildings, I've seen pictures of some of those cities that they build. I've seen whole blocks at a time fall over on their side. Some of those are built so badly, the whole goddamn block of them, 50 floors, 40 floors, will all fall over. It looks like something out of Masamune Shirow, fucking Appleseed, the ruins that you see. And like some
one other thing in regards to this, like, social point system and stuff like that, because I mean they are talking about, like, you're not going to be able to get a loan or like buy a car or some shit with if you have a low enough social, like it's literally going to be like that Black Mirror episode. Was it season 3? I think episode 1, season 3, and it's like there are going to be people who are they're going to turn to some kind of crime or something because they're literally have
Isn't Black
no
Mirror-
stake in society.
Isn't
Life
Black
finds
Mirror,
way.
isn't Black Mirror just amazing? It literally is. It's literally
Well, season
Literally,
4 was
best way
kind of
to- what?
Season 4 was a little iffy.
I'll be
yeah.
right back. I made sure to get soda pop for this, so I'm going to get some more soda pop. I'll be right back.
Okay.
I'm just saying, isn't it just like great? Like the commentary, though, it's just so true in so many ways.
I mean, it's very. I don't know about true, but it's very.
Paints a picture.
Like it's opens opens up, pokes at horrifying possibilities that can happen.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
well,
might happen in China.
I hope it comes, and I hope it's chaotic, and I hope China gets ripped in half, and then they have to start over because they have already been fucking.
I don't know about hope, but I mean, like, I suspect there's going to be problems because I mean, you have a middle class that's growing and a middle and like wealthy class that's growing, and they don't have political power, so
They're gonna find it.
they're gonna start demanding.
They're not gonna do it peacefully, right?
I mean, I assume the party leaders are not going to give it up willingly. Whether or not it comes to violence depends on how willing they, how strongly they want to hold on to power. But it's probably going to come at some point.
Well, I'll say this: when you really look at it, there's actually this what's it called? There's actually this book. I can't remember who it was written by, but it was written by a dude who was like, he had paranoid schizophrenia, and so he took pills.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever he wanted to write, he always wrote horror, and it wasn't H.P. Lovecraft; it was somebody else. But he wrote like the story, The Man in the High Castle. Do you know that?
Oh,
Yeah, he wrote that.
What's his name?
But regardless, he wrote it, and the idea of why there's another book he wrote where like everybody knows everything that's going to happen because of calculations so well that a war is over after they just calculate numbers. They don't even have the war. They just say, "Oh, you're going to lose, so just give up."
Philip K. Dick.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then he wrote a book, and then at the book, then the only way for the opposition to win is to go into the past and bring somebody who's never even seen any of this to them, just so that way he can be the one that they can't predict. They can't predict the odds of.
Mm-hmm.
Only way to do it. And yeah, Man in the High Castle though is an Amazon series now, and it was based on the book. And he wrote the same book, so I'm just imagining a year where like literally it's just, I want to start a war with you. Really? Yeah? All right. Let's calculate, motherfucker.
Mm-hmm. I probably should get off soon, by the way, just to let you know. But
That's fine. Let's play the video. But before we do, I gotta say it. I'm so scared about what could happen to the world. And I'm sick of this stupid overpopulation bullshit that a lot of the left has been pushing. Like the far left, not our lovely guest here, but the far left, the progressives. And they always say, like, look at China, it's so overcrowded. My response is, bitch, do you know how big China is and how few people actually live in that landmass? Like it's extremely.
India's going to surpass them. India's going to surpass China soon. Within the next, like, I think 20-something years or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, there's tons of land that is just not used at all by Chinese people.
Well, I mean,
It's like,
so there are some deserts and stuff like that in China too, but
yeah, you mean like
I'd say it's pretty crowded.
like Tibet?
I mean, Tibet.
You're right. They've always had a hard time populating the north and the northwest, and it's just simply because of it's always been dry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, the only thing
cold?
to Tibet, one of the reasons why they're holding on to Tibet actually is because Tibet is a watershed. From what
Yeah.
what I've been reading, and it provides water and all kinds of other stuff, so they can't let it go basically. And it provides a buffer. I think buffer between them and India and some other stuff like that.
Yeah, but regardless, we know that there's plenty of places that in the future that in the future could actually be habitated, based on the technology we're going to have, and that China is mostly overcrowded, first off, because of poor planning, but also because there's a lot of area that's just not used. Like it's really cramped, but it's not like, oh, China's a perfect example of when people just, they don't know how to populate, you know what I mean?
Well, they know how to populate.
No, that's the issue is they centrally planned it. They destroyed their traditional government, and actually people don't even realize, like, because they most people like were outside of that world. If you look on YouTube, there is a video that most people on the internet have seen. It's kind of viral, where you see the abbot of the Shaolin Temple in some documentary standing on his fingers, and his feet are up against the wall like a finger stand.
Mm-hmm.
And then on one part of this documentary, you see Jet Li at like the age of like 15 or 19 years old, and he's super fast, and it's like Jet Li, blah 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 blah. Well, that was because the abbot of the Shaolin Temple was a whole series of documentaries that were propaganda pieces put out when they came over here, did their first tour in 1988. They had reassembled Kung Fu. They had killed so many Kung Fu artists. They killed so many scholars. They killed so many middle-class people. So many people starved en masse. They had lost like tremendous amounts of knowledge in the martial arts and the traditional cultural arts. And they had to actually do mass campaigns to reassemble people who knew that stuff. And that was the result, was the abbot of the Shaolin Temple talking to all these martial artists who had fundamentally become quote unquote national treasures, living national treasures because of their knowledge of martial arts. And so we have no idea what was lost to that period of time.
I would love to go back and find
all to make a bunch of shitty steel in fucking villages and shit like that. Like, congratulations.
People died in the Great Leap Forward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, and so they tried to centrally plan, and they're one of the greatest stories of modernism coming, destroying, then trying to make it super city mega state, and in 10 years everyone's going to be like weeping. They're going to be weeping over China. They're just going to be like, oh my god, how did this go? Like this is the end of Marx, modernism. Everything will be in China, as finally everything that because the commies are always lying. And the whole issue that people really don't understand about doing business with Chinese companies is, yeah, there's some that are good, but a lot of them, do you do business with them and they will be like, oh, we're not open anymore, and there's no way you could ever reach anyone, and you will never be able to sue us. And it turns out, even if you do sue us, whoa, it turns out the government of China bought our company after it went bankrupt. So you'll have to sue the government of China now. Good luck. Cai Jian, good luck day, and it's just, and so people are, and it's going to happen. It's going to be all sorts of fucked up there in ways.
Honestly, I gotta say right now, China is literally going to be a war zone. They're going to have like a war, because these are people who have lived in basically what would happen if Soviet Russia wasn't as bad, but was still pretty bad, and had just enough capitalism and to have a lot of advanced technology come about. more like corporatism, if anything. They're more fascist than they are communists, to be honest, economically. But you know, just enough capitalism where where the stage is set, where there's all this vast technology. There's a vast technology that's going to, and there's going to be all these reasons why people turn to crime. They all grew up in a place where they are, like, you know, being forced to repress their natural inclinations. And when they form these crime syndicates and the internet democratized not only knowledge but weapons, like full-on blasters, like machine guns that can hold a lot that will go around your entire body. When that comes online, because I'm sure it's going to come online, the people who start crime are going to be so ruthless because they've lived in a ruthless society their entire lives, and they've never known real freedom. And then they just took it not by talking to people, but by shooting them. You know, saying, "Oh yes, you want the one, you work for the government. Well, we don't like you. Goodbye." Bam, bam, bam. You know.
Well, they already have. If you look up veterans protest, Army veterans protest in China over what do you call it? Benefits, not but the pension. There'll be big protests by Army veterans over pensions that they were promised, and it's this problem that the Chinese government's trying to figure out, and they keep having to cover up these protests, and at some point it's all going to come apart. I mean, everybody across the first world is running on too much credit from all the central banking, the way that we do central banking, but China's really fucking screwed.
Ooh. That's why they're hacking us, I bet.
All right, I gotta get off.
All right.
It's all right. Well, hey, I'm sorry, but we just got this podcast always turns out this way. We get so deep into shit. But hey, Hart, bro, it is fantastic to hear from you. And I just wanted to say the way I wanted to end this video was I just wanted to say that by the end of it, let me show you just one little clip. Sound good?
Sure.
Yeah. Hold on, let me see if this is it.
Were removed from the Mouse Utopia universe and were capable of social interaction. Universe 20, while appearing as an excellent specimen.
Oh, here we go.
They engaged in when they were in Universe 25. Indeed, this was true of all the mice, but the beautiful ones, while appearing as an excellent partner, they were simply incapable of social interaction and would continue to engage in the behavior that they engaged in when they were in Universe 25. Indeed, this was true of all the mice, but the beautiful ones.
The beautiful ones, by the way, are the ones that were just always grooming themselves, and they looked like fresh specimens.
Excellent specimen. They were, in fact, mentally and socially retarded. Phase D was the last phase of the Mouse Utopia experiment, adequately named Die Phase. Population increase abruptly ceased on day 560. The last known conception took place at around day 920. Females who did fall pregnant in this phase seemed to be incredibly despondent when it came to taking care of their pups. In some cases, they would attempt to move them, but could be seen simply dropping their pups, and in some cases, they might have only moved half of them, seeming to forget that the other half even existed. This may very well be related to the general social retardation of the entire population. Phase D was by far the longest phase, lasting...
Jesus, fuck.
And it was a non-stop downward spiral. In the end, the majority of the last remaining half of the population consisted only of non-reproducing females and attractive, uninterested in sex males. On day 1588, the experiment was terminated because of the extinction of the colony.
Fuck.
Dun, dun, dun.
We need to make a movie. We need to make a fucking movie. Like, that is drastic. But listen to that. Listen to all that stuff about how little care they actually took about their pups. How the mothers were there, and the big reason why is because the alpha males would just leave. They would just go. They would just have sex with other people, and plus there were so many women that they were having sex with they didn't have time to even go out and get resources, which made the mothers go out and do it themselves and socialize. They were constantly socializing. So think about this. It sounds just like single mothers in the U.S. just going out and partying, even when they have a kid at home, and neglecting the child. And just when you think about it, they never reach capacity for any of the things that could have killed them. Nothing but their own instincts guided them to their own destruction. In the regular world, the multiple partners from mice is possible, but not very common, because the mice that wouldn't reproduce would just die off and emigrate somewhere else, and the mice that were alphas would be too concerned about surviving, so they wouldn't have time to go to other mice. But this just shows, in a world where everything is easy, you need some kind of social order, because if you don't, imagine if polygamy became legal, and how many wives the alphas would get. The betas would get none, but the wives would have no time to talk to their own children. There'd be nothing. When you think about this as a direct correlation, the beautiful ones, I like to say they're MGTOW. They're taking care of themselves very well, but they want to stay away from women. This, I think, is why we need to save marriage, because we don't, we could end up like the mouse utopia.
Or dystopia, I guess, in this case.
Yeah, exactly. But I would have fucking loved it if this was a movie. Or better yet, if this was like maybe like a sci-fi movie about humans, and then by the end, when they all died, maybe you see a giant hand come in and scoop up one of the people, and then the person turns into a mouse. And then they show that, and they zoom out, it's the mouse utopia.
Mm.
Yeah. Like, just
All right.
mind fuck, right?
All right, I'm gonna get off. I gotta get off.
All right, man. We'll see you around.
All right.
Donovan,
All right, it was good talking to you. All
What's
right,
that?
bye.
See you, man. So how you feeling, Don? Donnie?
Oh,
How you feeling, Don Von?
oh, pretty good.
Don John. That sounds like a great name for you. Like you, Don John.
The mouse man, that was wow.
Yeah.
Every time I think about that, that's super depressing.
I know. Oh my god. Fuck. It's just holy shit. Just they had everything, but they didn't have animal to animal equality, because it doesn't exist. That alone destroyed it. Just wrapping my head around that, it just reminds you there is no such thing as equality, because if there was, you would not be black, I would not be Latino, Lauren Southern wouldn't be white, and Cenk Uygur wouldn't be a buffalo.
And it's the whole thing that, like, I've actually been really finding more and more the critics in America who've come out of right Christianity, who have criticized communism, and were really the people who had been warning everybody, like, throughout the 80s. And then there would be like the whole like realm of like celebrity preachers who would overpower them, or out they would be in the shadow of celebrity preachers. That a lot of these people, they really had their minds wrapped around this correctly, that they were like, no, there are conditions. The universe has conditions such as gravity, wind speed, all these things that you can measure. And they're like, this is the reason why spirituality has this other idea. And this other idea is that, well, no, you have the same creator. That is your similarity that you could see, but that's why you two are so similar as humans, is because you were made as humans by the same creator, and that idea is how people viewed reality up until about the last 120 years. And then over about the last 50 years, it's drastically changed this modern view. And because of that, people don't, this modern view, only the Austrians and libertarians have really factored in this thing that's like, well, there's simply conditions, and it's not that you're victim to them. It is just the way the universe is constructed. There is no utopia.
Yeah, and it's not about, you know, saying, oh, that like the Red Ice TV, like, oh, you should just kill off all the retards. Like, they literally, it's very slow. I will show you just a little clip, but I'll show you how it ends, just because it's really, really friendly.
I am curious which one this was that I'm like, well, you know, what
Oh, did I say Margot? Margot or Rat? Oh, sorry, Margaret Sanger. Watch this. Right here. So this is how it begins, with the over-stylization.
Actually have a few things right about Margaret Sanger, the co-founder of Planned Parenthood. Milo recently compared Planned Parenthood's president to Hitler. Ooh, so edgy.
President since 2006, Cecile Richards. Richards is well on her way to personally matching Hitler's body count. That's the swastika with the Planned Parenthood logo. Cecile Richards has presided over 3 million abortions, or 3 mega scrapes. In her 10 years as president of the organization, this has earned her half Holocaust status. Full Holocaust seems eminently reachable.
And more.
Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, was unarguably and hideously racist. She spoke glowingly about a presentation she gave to a group of KKK women in New Jersey, and they loved her messaging about the black race so much that they asked her to come back. Messaging like this, which she wrote in a letter to Dr. Clarence Gamble. She said, "We do not want word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten out the idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members." Margaret Sanger's goal, of course, was to diminish the black race, and one can argue she was at least partially successful.
Okay, so much misinfo here. This lie that Sanger wanted to exterminate blacks is pushed by politically motivated cucks trying to appeal to both.
Now, right away, ad hominems. So now that's how it progressed. That's how it started. Hold on. That's how it started off. It started off, well, maybe she wasn't as racist. Then listen to how it changes.
Getting certainly better consideration and better conditions than they had at the time that I was there. I went to every country because I was invited. And I didn't spread.
Here we go.
And of pregnancies.
Margaret didn't think race was the problem, but uncontrolled, unplanned fertility among all peoples. She wanted all women to avoid unwanted pregnancies.
You have helped to spread the birth control.
Now that sounds all peachy and fun until you hear a little bit more.
And better conditions than they had to. Go to Japan. That can be made.
You can look up the Margaret Sanger interview yourself. I just wanted to show you what Lana said. Come on. Oh, son of a bitch. Okay, here we go.
And unnecessary suffering.
Yes, Sanger became a eugenicist, but so was the majority of intellectuals and elites in this era, not just Europeans. There's a massive need to define eugenics, as people immediately think it means Nazis gassing non-whites. Well, German National Socialists lived in an all-white society. They didn't have non-whites mass migrating to their country like today. The idea of eugenics is older than Adolf. Eugenics means conscious procreation and being realistic when it comes to mentally retarded, crippled, or insane people having children.
Oh, did you hear that? See where it's going?
Oh yeah. No, that's I knew that at some point this conversation would have to be discussed. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and insane. Well, first off, what does she define as insane? Because this insanity is a very, very, very specific legal term that refers specifically to someone unable to understand right or wrong. where they cannot be held legally responsible for their own actions. That's not the same thing as what I think she means. And responsible over people with mental illnesses. And right away they show with this woman who's just fucked beyond all comparison. You know, like her life is just screwed. You know, and she's talking like, should I let you have a child? And it's just so interesting. And then here's how it goes a little bit farther. Let me just, and she starts talking about how I'll show you.
Where if they do, it begins a cycle of needless suffering. But it also means encouraging the best and brightest of your people to have children. It's a fact that people who are poor and low IQ tend to have more children. Eugenics is about ending the cycle of suffering.
Ending the cycle of suffering. That sounds like a very flowery way of saying getting rid of all the despicables and ending the suffering of Lana Locktev for looking at them. You know, even though
I gotta admit that is an interesting choice of words. That
the ending of suffering.
Yeah, because you see, of course, the in my mind, because of the stuff I've been interested in over my lifetime, that's from Buddhism.
Really?
Yeah, that's what the point of Buddhism is, to end the cycle of suffering. That's literally, like, I mean, I'm not even kidding. Like, why do you practice Buddhism? To end the cycle of suffering.
Yeah, but it does seem a little
and it's their definition of suffering is the whole thing. It's this big metaphysical construct. So, you know, without knowing that, you wouldn't know what they mean by suffering. So it's actually a kind of interesting way that I'm like, oh, that's a fascinating way you've worked that.
Yeah. And you know what? And you know what's interesting? She's talking about ending a cycle of suffering. Well, here's the thing. Like, if someone is able to outsmart their disorder, to outfox it, is it really suffering? You know, like if someone's like, there are plenty of mentally handicapped people who I know, you know, because I have autism, and I've seen plenty of people with autism not only make it into STEM, but one of my best friends, he's an actor, and he has Down syndrome, and he can't. And his IQ is, I think, like 98 or something. You know, well, it's not that high. It's a little high. It's a little lower. But it's low enough where he's definitely not considered high IQ, just functioning enough. But he is a regular actor, and he enjoys it, and he has never had a single criminal record in his life. He lives on his own. He's never taken welfare. I mean, and I know someone's going to be like, oh, but I know this anecdote. Yeah, anecdotal evidence is anecdotal. There are statistics showing that people with mental illnesses, the amount of people that are violent that have mental illnesses is a minority, an extremely small minority of the people with mental illness who are violent. You know what I mean? Like, out of all the people who have mental illnesses, only a small portion are violent.
Yeah, it's more typical. Yeah, it's more typical that they would suffer from self-harm or self-neglect rather than actually be in some way psychopathically violent toward other people,
or the victims of violence, for people who take advantage of them.
And then yes, there's that because it's usually what most things that when people think of mental illness, just like they make it something out of a TV show. So they're like, oh, he hears full sentences in his mind from a voice that's not there. That in a lot of people have this kind of view of the world, I found. And it's another example is serial killers. They don't think of Mr. Loked Out Crip guy as a serial killer because he keeps doing drive-bys serially, you know. So with mental illness, they don't think of no, this person actually has a mental illness that, because we don't really know how the brain works that well, this person just simply does not react in a whole list of ways that we have a word for. And because of this, they actually need other people to look out for them because they can't process the world correctly in some critical manner. And that is, and they get taken advantage of. And that's yeah. And it's just, you're right. This is actually one of the issues that I kind of think is a bit funny about what's going on in Sweden. Most people don't know. Somebody sent me a link, and I just don't know where it went. And it was the Sweden Democrats, not the, oh God, what is it called? There's the
right?
No, there's two parties in Sweden. They almost sound exactly the same, but one goes back to World War II, and they were the eugenicists. And they're the ones that are actually right now in power and are letting all of the people in from other countries. It's like they shed their whole World War II nationalist eugenicist thing and became the party of diversity and let a bunch of people in from, they actually are the party that if you look up their history, they're, I guess, the party of eugenicists. And they were totally like, they were all about it. Like Sweden was all about like, oh, this guy's a lumpkin, this guy's head is a rock, and they had all sorts of pictures and film. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, they were, like they heard about eugenics, and they were like, this is the best thing since the bossa nova, like, I mean, they're
like, bro, yo, let's kill all those retards. I
know, totally. They were exactly. And so there's this, I think we don't really consider some groups in Europe might actually be capable of being shockingly cruel to their own people, and they're really good about later making it sort of like, well, we learned from that.
Cycle of pain, and the
it's like, I mean, I think about that like with France. Now how a lot of people in the American right, understand like, oh, all this viva la liberté, égalité. No, these people are weirdos, and they fucking have fucked their own people over and over and over again.
You mean people who say liberté, égalité, stuff like that?
Yeah. That was a big thing on, like, you still see it with the left. Like, if you live in a enclave, there's a lot of people on the left, like people wear berets, because it's the revolutionary hat, And like now people on, it's like been for like now about half a decade. A lot of people on the right understand like, no, the French Revolution like totally collapsed into like just killing and just nuttery and all kinds of horrible things.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, and so now it's like, it's made people discuss, well, the French have turned on their own now and then, and we'll go through the history of it, like the Templars, or there's stuff like the Swedes, where it's like, no, they will kill their own people, don't worry. These are not like these are not populations that don't every once in a while just sort of do something very naturally human and fuck themselves up or fuck each other up. It's like they're, with the EU, it's like there's like, oh no, you see, we all wear suits. All of us have suits now, and we hang out, and we're all cool now. See, we're very civilized, and I like how now the right has exposed. No. The Belgians would love to screw the Italians. The Germans would love to fuck the Greeks. They obviously are kind of enjoying this, like, you should have more Turks in your country, but we're Greece. Yeah, you should have more Turks.
But we do. Half of our population is mixed with them.
I know, and then it would be like, but sure, but Turkish delight.
Yeah,
Come
But
on.
I mean, like the ones that do come here, we have to vet because half our population, that is them is very friendly, but there's a lot of shitheads that also want to come here, and we have to deal with them. Yeah, but come on, I mean, you could always have more, but we can't. But you can.
Exactly. That's exactly how it must just be going down. It must just be so frustrating. Everybody in their suits just repeating things, But, actually, I gotta admit, I do like that one thing that Lektov did that I do like in this. It is that she has parsed exactly what did this person believe. But what I like is to make this to do something that has been very necessary for me to enter the kind of the right and to correct my mindset is, well, when you have an idea, who the hell agrees with you? And that's the thing that really is the Margaret Sanger story is, she might say this, she might have said that, but when, who agreed, and that's the thing that I think is most important is that it's like, yeah, the people who are looking into this are people that now, as time's gone on, people are like, nah, no, not, I'm not kind of into that. Or they look back at it and they said, a lot of this was associated with occultism.
Ooh.
Groups that were sort of oddly extra. They were spin-offs of a religion, and so it's like, so people they've thought about it. They've gotten a good amount of time to think about it, and I think it's good that has touched on exactly what was said. And so that yeah,
Sanger or Latev? Oh, your person.
Sanger.
Oh yeah. I think it's just so interesting. And you know what? They always say, the French Revolution was where the right and left came about. I'm like, well, not exactly. If you watch Rocky Mr. E, did a pretty good breakdown of that. But I didn't do my own research because I'm like, this sounds a little bit far. Oh, he's right. And
totally.
It's like when you hear Alex Jones say, "Florida in your town," you're like, that's funny. Wait, Gaia, you just pulled out a video showing all these studies. Oh, holy shit. Floyd really is bad for you. And it's like, whoa, blah, blah, blah. Like Gaia Online, their YouTube channel, I watched it. They had a great video about fluoridation, how it literally is the most illogical thing of all time. It was very, very calm and well done. And I just realized, holy shit, the meme about putting chemicals in the water to turn the freaking frogs gay was right.
Yeah. And it's
correct.
Now what's fascinating now is how everybody filters their water. That this has developed into a population-wide approach to drinking water as filtering it because they know there's something in it. I mean, I think that's kind of like the middle class society all the way down to the working class. They all buy bottled water at tremendous levels because they're worried that there's something actually being put in the water that's poisonous.
Yeah, it just mind boggles you when you finally just don't think about how funny it is to watch a video where Alex is going like, "Turn the frickin' frogs gay, do you understand me?" It's like a remix, and just think, wait a minute, fluoride, that's in toothpaste, right? But you're always told not to swallow toothpaste. Wait a minute, well, what does it actually do to your body? Oh, it has something to do with the pineal gland, and it hurts that, and it messes with other parts of your brain. And there's this study that shows this. I mean, just when you realize that maybe the person who's acting crazy isn't acting crazy because they're just insane. Maybe it's because they realize that this is like when you slowly turn up the heat on some kind of a reptile, and you're trying to kill it, and you do it just so slowly it doesn't notice, and you're the first person saying, "Wait a minute, the water just got a little warmer. Oh my God, we're burning alive!" You know, that's what I realized about Alex. You know, some of the shit he says is batshit insane, but then you look back at some of his older videos and you start saying, "Wait a minute, we just saw that." What? Yeah. It's just like, this is a man screaming into the void, trying to open our eyes, and we're all half asleep.
Totally. And also it's he goes on a lot of, you know, his theories and gut feeling on things, you know, and stuff that also he probably gets that comes from sources that are trying to see if they could disinform a population, you know, that and he's even mentioned, you know, that obviously must happen now and then, you know, that he gets told stuff that he later finds out wasn't as good as he thought it was. But he's gotten so many interviews with people that needed him and his fan base as an outlet for their for what they did, their research. And it's changed a generation. You know, he won when it comes to the culture war. You know, there's no Young Turk store that people associate. They go, "Oh yeah, you mean the water filter salesman Alex Jones." Nobody says about Young Turks, "You mean the guy who sells that thing?" Ha ha ha. You know, no one can make that joke because he sells nothing.
Because he would never sell a thing if he did.
Yeah, you know, he's an advertisement for nothing anybody would want. You know, and it's, yeah. Hey, I actually, with that, I actually need to cut out because I have to get in some training time because I have not been getting in my requisite amount of training time.
Okay, well, do you mind if I quickly show you this one part before you go?
Oh, sure thing.
Oh yeah, this is where just Lodkif just goes completely pants on head retarded.
And few mention the Jewish women who surrounded Margaret Sanger. Yet no Jews get charged with wanting to exterminate blacks. All we hear is Sanger, Sanger, Hitler, Hitler. Jewish women were well tied into the birth control movement. 14 years before Sanger was Emma Goldman, who later got
a full-blown communist, by the way.
Ah.
Emma Goldman, a full-blown communist who only, I think, stopped after when she went to the Soviet Union. She left the Soviet Union because they thought that they failed, and you know they were communism, right? So then when she went to Germany, and then as a shot in the head. So yeah, Lana Lockteff, the cucks that are trying to promote communism is just praising Emma Goldman.
Behind her, Goldman and her husband published a 4-page pamphlet, Why and How the Poor Should Not Have Many Children. They said fewer and better children would create a healthy...
Better. The social Darwinism is there. Oh.
Human race. The National Council of Jewish Women Sanger found Planned Parenthood in 1948. Jewish women served as directors and staff at the Margaret Sanger and Mindell were Jewish immigrants. Hannah Stone was the first medical director of an abortion device before legal abortion. Today, Jewish orgs are huge supporters of abortion, and numerous Jewish doctors are willing to perform it. Yet no one says they're trying to exterminate blacks. So it's interesting that in Israel, you have to stand in front of the Pregnancy Termination Committee before you can have a legal abortion. The fact is, today, many smart, beautiful women are also having abortions. That is not eugenic, it's dysgenic. But to me and to the alt-right, abortion isn't the biggest issue. Protecting the white people who are alive and ensuring they have a country of their own is.
And there you go. Now, there's nothing wrong with not wanting whites to die. It's just so interesting that nobody said we should abort the whites. That she's like, but by the way, the whites. It's like when you're playing basketball where there's super religious, born again Baptist black uncle, and it was like, yo, you want to play basketball? And he goes like, sure I do, because the Lord want me to. What you think? The Lord gonna be on my side?
Arsion? Arsion, are you there?
That's what this is.
Oh, there
and
you
then
go.
You look at it. I want you to watch the full video on your own. Margaret Sanger from Red Ice TV. But throughout the entire video, it's basically, by the way, insert white person issue here. Insert white. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, you know, like the globalists don't like white. It's, you know, that's fine. I get that. There is evidence of that. But just out of left field, it becomes, by the way, we support white people. White people, white people, white people, white people. Great. Not against that.
No. I get what the way that this is actually this is actually very good propaganda. I'm mostly appreciating it from the point of view of just propaganda wise. That the thing of how she's like, in fact, actually, if you were to look at any group that it seems they're inordinately interested in this subject, here is a group that is inordinately involved in the history of this subject, and that really that this is something that I could tell you from listening to YouTube channels of rather Orthodox rabbis. This is an issue in American, especially the American Jewish community. Is are doctors that perform abortions who are
Jews,
religious Jews, yeah, and that and that this is sort of this thing that like there's one guy in particular that, I mean, he has no problem calling out the community and its history.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, that was pretty fucking woke, dude. And his whole thing is, he's like, if we don't, God will punish us. If I don't call out our people when we do wrong, we know what happens.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of an interesting, you know, I like that guy a lot. But
I think it's very interesting that you know, that the right has always been like, you probably shouldn't do this because this is literally just you committing murder in order to get out of a responsibility. And this entire time, she's been calling everybody cucks who don't like her position, which is a great way of showing how much you respect other people's ideas. And then she ends it with white people, pro-white people, pro-white people. And even though nobody said kill all the whites, like, whoa, like this isn't South Africa. This is America. Not the song, but like just like, whoa, Lana, chill, girl. Like I get it, but you just mentioned kill the mentally disabled, because it's an act of mercy apparently, and you know, and she kept saying there are plenty of smart white women who are getting abortions, and that is a problem. Wait a minute, hold on. You seem to be hitting a particular point over and over again. White, smart women having kids, nobody else. I'm starting to see, I think I see the Matrix, and it looks pretty fucked up. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like you're being as honest as you want to be. You know what I mean?
Well, definitely, like, one of the things is that I could see how because I don't believe her and Heinrich are necessarily Christian, if I remember correctly.
I think they're Nordic. I think they worship like the Nordic gods or something.
Yeah, like there's this part of my mind that I'm like, well, no, that their moral philosophy being based around like the fundamentally the Volk to an extent, and that those outcomes and family and kith and kin, like I'm like, no, I get it. I could see where in that moral philosophy system, her views probably are totally consistent. Out of, say, Judaism and Christianity, they would not. And actually, that's like a notorious thing about both Judaism and Christianity, is that they basically never left like a child to the wolves.
Yeah.
And so that's yeah. But that's also that thing of that. It's now that time. The elements of the right have now completely established themselves as their groups with their internal consistent philosophies. There's the various like kind of people who are the YouTube Christian right that will all talk to each other, whether Protestant, Orthodox, or Catholic. Then there's the woke Jews, who are religious Jews, who they all, will talk to anybody on the right. They'll just discuss all kinds of things. There's the atheist right, and now there's the Volkish right that they have their concern. Now we even see, like, say, the Hoteps, where you have the black, like the black community that's concerned about the black community within the United States of America.
Mm-hmm. Would you consider yourself to be a part of that in a certain way? I know you're mixed race, but what would you consider yourself?
I've really found that I generally end up more in the end of the Christians and those who are the we will create a new quote unquote Republican. We're taking back the party entirely.
Oh,
total and complete. We're putting everybody through the chairs. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Have a good retirement. And then in that room is left nothing but strict observance, swords on our sides. Ready to reestablish the idea of a republic, with everyone is honest. If they're allowed to have a gun, property rights, A-OK. Like, you telling me what to do, you better have a great deal to make with me, because that's not how it works in this country, and just that it's going to probably take about 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm of the opinion we should just abolish property tax, because I really think that's the best.
Oh yeah.
For people to say, hey, no, we should keep the old Republicans in. They wanted a strong government. Oh, interesting. So you mean when I buy a house, I pay rent to the government? What the fuck is that shit? In Somalia, in any African nation, and most third world nations, including in Latin America, they would look at you like, what are you talking about? Unless they're communists. Like, what? You pay a tax on what you already own? Why would you do that? Like, they would.
Well, no. In some places like that, no. Everybody, don't worry. Slipping people, baksheesh is the way everything happens. But it's what it is in the United States is with us because of contract. The issue is, if it costs this much, just tell me. That became our approach. Well, how much does it cost? Just tell me. And what ends up happening is we allow for a system by which people, because of free travel, because of freedom of speech, people go, wait, so how much did he charge you? He charged you that much? So if, people are getting, if people will no longer use a service if they know they're getting cheated. And what we found now with taxation is this is a system that made sense a long time ago when people weren't free to travel and there was no cars and, you know, and there was no mass communication. But now that we have mass communication, there's an app for that, quote unquote, you know, hashtag, there's an app for that. Everything that there's a fee for, you should be able to know how much am I using, you know, what really, you know, like we should be able to figure out, you know, I walk, how much is the road, you know, how much is the road, you know, like because I would be more than willing to know how much I actually should be paying for the roads. Like, I would love to know that. That would be fascinating to have some idea of what that costs, because I have no fucking idea. You know, like now, because we just pay a thing called taxes, you know, and that's my big thing now that I try to get across, especially to liberals, is like, no, you don't know what anything costs because it isn't a cost. It's just called taxes.
You just pay, and then it just goes there.
And the problem is solved, you know, and all right, well, yeah. So I'm gonna get running.
Yeah, man. But check out the video, dude. It's ridiculous. Like, she just like full pants on head retard. Like that's what she does. Full pants on head retarded mode. Yeah, it's one of the funniest things I have honestly ever seen, and I am definitely going to make fun of her infinitum for it. So have a good night, man.
All right, have a good night. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed that episode. It was extremely long, and as usual, we lost track of everything we talked about, but we always brought it back because, you know, we're good like that. Yeah, good like that. So check out Lana Lokhtev's video on Red Ice TV about Margaret Sanger. I know I had to skip a lot because I had to keep things short, which I failed to do pretty bad. But it is really, really funny because if you do watch the whole video in context, you'll find out that, you know, even with the parts that I left out, she absolutely basically just says, not only should we not kill any white women, and well, not really that. She doesn't just say not only should we kill most of the black population because, you know, even though it's circumstances outside of them that cause a lot of low IQ, we should actually kill non-intelligent, whatever she means. She keeps it very open-ended, very, very open-ended, and open for debate what she means by non-intelligent white women. We should kill them. We should just destroy them. Like, she is an elitist incarnate. And here's the thing. I have no problem with saying I don't want white people to die. I don't want white people to die. And I do see it, that there is a genuine problem in Europe. I see that there's a genuine problem where white people are being replaced. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. It doesn't sound like she wants a resolution to that. It sounds like that's just another problem for her. It seems like if she could, all the non-whites, gone. You know, and all the mentally handicapped and the non-mentally handicapped, just those who she probably just didn't like, oh my God, I'm Lana Lockteff and my husband and I, Heinrich, we don't have children. But guess what? Susan did, and she's a bitch. So I'm going to call her low IQ and put her head in a scaffold and chop it off. You know, that's really what it sounds like. It sounds like this idea of whoever I placed into this very open-ended category of low IQ because she did not do a very good job of defining it. And she used the term insane very, very loosely. It just sounds like a great way of just ushering in the fucking eugenics program. And don't believe anyone who says that eugenics is somehow this compassionate love affair of safe birth. It's not. If you look into the history, it's not only elitist, it's social Darwinism. It's really based on this idea that things that are arbitrary are now important, and you should kill those things. So I know I've been blabbing for a while. I'm going to turn off the stream now. I think it's really great that you guys did what you did coming on the stream and watching. Thank you so much for watching. I love all of you. Check out Red Eyes TV's hilariously stupid, pants on head retarded video about Margaret Sanger, where they just make themselves look like total dumbasses. It's the funniest shit you will see in a long time. And if you really, really boil it down, it basically is Z Kyle. Yeah, there you go. My name is Arcian, and I am the Angel of Objectivist. I'm signing off now.